Today's class is part of, as I said, a class on LGBT inclusive in-depth sex education. As such, our rules are a little stricter than normal. We welcome all who welcome all. We are intolerant of intolerance. And the only thing that we ask about you is that you will respect the existence of everyone here. If you can do that, then we'll respect your presence here. However, during these classes in particular, there is a concern. Sex education tends to bring out some of the worst in people. So we don't tolerate trolls, and we don't tolerate people making other people uncomfortable in the chat.
We also don't tolerate. This is more applicable to people who are here live, but we do not tolerate people coming to sex ed classes in order to pick up other people.
No.
Um,
No, we do not. So, this particular series of classes is going to cover, well, a very, very large range of topics. So we're covering everything from what is the biology of gender identity to paraphilia and paraphilic disorders, to genital mutilation, to how to safely use sex toys. Today's class in particular is going to cover proper hygiene for someone who possesses a vagina, someone who possesses a penis, and for the anus.
Depending on how long that takes.
We may not be able to get through all the information today. As I said, this is an in-depth course. And one of the things I want to say, there's a reason we're teaching this as a class on this topic, because we had someone go like, well, everyone's taken a health class. That teaches proper hygiene.
No, it doesn't.
No, it really doesn't. I've taken what's considered a better health class here in Las Vegas, and they barely touched on how to properly clean the vagina and didn't really touch at all on how to properly clean the penis. And I'm going to share something really gross that I've had a cis straight het man tell me recently. He told me that he doesn't wash his hands unless he, passes feces, because he can tell if he gets pee on his hands. So there's no reason to. All he did was touch his penis, and his penis is clean. Now, one of the things that has been proven, like, pretty extensively, is that underwear transfers bacteria from the anus to the genitals, and that this occurs in people who have vaginas and in people who have penises, and that in particular, as the perianal sweat transfers the fecal bacteria onto the penis, it's there until you wash it off, and that this occurs in minute amounts throughout the day, and that, if you touch your penis at all, you get some of that on yourself, and you need to wash your hands, or you're transferring that to
Before
people.
anyone else has the same brilliant idea I did, brilliant, just don't wear underwear. You still have something in contact. I guess technically, if you don't wear underwear and you're wearing a skirt, kilt, or similar
Perianal
garment,
sweat still.
you're still gonna get some level of transfer.
Like, also there's smegma, which is a bodily fluid, and don't get bodily fluids on people without their
washing
consent.
your hands is not actually a thing that there's a workaround for.
Honestly, people just need to be washing their hands more in general. Just in general. Especially, like, okay, so back when they were first starting to understand, back when they were first starting to understand the germ theory.
Oh, were you going to talk about gentlemen doctors?
Yes, gentlemen doctors. There was, in fact, a trans doctor. He came out and said, hey, we're killing people when they're giving birth because we're not washing our hands. And a bunch of doctors were like, hey, well, we're gentlemen. We don't need to wash our hands. Gentlemen aren't dirty. And they were killing people. And he could not get people to listen about this. And this poor trans man who's a physician just could not get the other gentleman doctors to take him seriously, and there's a death toll attached to that. Now we have the new version of this, which is anti-vaxxers, affluent people saying, well, my kid won't get sick. My kid is a gentleman. Anyway. Also, recently, like, a Fox News person was like, I don't wash my hands. I haven't washed my hands in 10 years because germs are a myth. Ew. Ew, 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 ew. I'm so scared to shake anybody's hands anymore. Anyway, moving right along.
Then there's the glitter experiment.
Okay, so do you want to talk about the glitter experiment, or shall I get started on the vagina?
Glitter is just the fact that you should be washing your hands more often, in general, because if you assume that one person who is within a few degrees of you in terms of interpersonal contact isn't washing their hands, you've got whatever they had on their hands on your hands. This is demonstrated by getting a group of people together, one of whom has glitter on their hands, and then you walk around shaking each other's hands and greeting each other. By the end of this experiment, everyone will have glitter on. Inevitably. It's just a very effective demonstration.
All right, so we're gonna start with people who have a vagina. Now, before I get in depth on this, I want to say we will be teaching a separate class on transition and on the healthy methods of transition. And that will include the proper hygiene of doing things like packing in order to present a penis bump when you possess a vagina, and that will include the proper hygiene of caring for a strap-on, and that will include the proper hygiene of caring for surgery, like aftercare of surgery.
Although it really depends on the kind of surgery you got. Oh my god, if you got the kind with the peristitial tissue, it's so much less aftercare involved. But they don't offer that in the States that I'm aware of yet.
There's been just groundbreaking changes in transition surgery, and it is going to change things. But we'll get into that another time. This is also separate from the class on proper breast care, which we'll be getting into, and that will be attached to basically, the part of it will be in the no, really, this is what happens when you give birth, and this is what happens when you get breastfeed, which is going to be a separate class. And part of it will be in the no, really, this is how you do a cancer screening, and this is how you take care of breasts. And yes, people with penises have breasts, and yes, people with vaginas have breasts. Again, separate class. But I want to be very clear about what's getting sorted into what class, so that you know that I'm not missing the information, I just sorted it in a certain place.
The other thing I'm going to say is that we are not going to spend a lot of time today on care of intersex genitalia, despite the fact that we want to acknowledge that it exists, simply because the number of different formations of intersex genitalia is extremely high.
So a person who is intersex may have a micropenis rather than a clitoris, may have a combination of externally presenting genitalia, and so it's going to be such a variance. Now, eventually, I would like to do a class where we present in-depth information on intersex persons and all of that, but that, again, is going to be a different question. So, moving right along, let's talk about vaginas and vulvas. So, to start with, the vulva is the external genitalia structure, which does not include the vagina. So it is the mound, it is the clitoris, it is the urethra, it's the labia majora, it's the labia minora. That's the vulva, is basically that whole V of genitals. And then you have the vaginal opening, and that goes into the vagina and up to the cervix.
Right.
Okay? Each of these areas needs to be cleaned slightly differently, so I'm gonna go over that whole. I'm gonna go out to in.
Okay.
So to start with, the only area of your vagina, if you possess one, that you should be washing with any kind of soap is that external mount not going into the space between the labia minora and the labia majora. Don't go between the lips with soap. Don't go up inside yourself with soap.
Right. More precisely, there should be no washing of the vagina at all with soap.
No
the
washing
only
at
part of
all.
your vulva that you should wash with soap is the external mound.
Yes, thank you. The only part of your vulva you should be washing with soap is the external mound and the pubic hair.
There's a question about how long ago and the gentleman doctor thing was. This was
in the 1890s.
Yeah,
I think.
late 19th century, I believe. It was right around the time the germ theory of medicine was being introduced.
So it was the late 1800s, early 1900s.
And it lasted for what, about a decade and a half.
Yeah. I mean, it persisted, and I mean, then right up to them not respecting his wishes at his burial. But
yeah.
Okay.
Couple of decades.
The soap that you use on your vulva does matter. It should be mild. It should be unscented.
Should it be antibacterial?
It should not be antibacterial. In fact, you should not be using antibacterial soap at all. None of us should. The only people who should be using antibacterial soap are people in certain professions. And that doesn't include teachers. Teachers and school children should not be using antibacterial soap. The proliferance of antibacterial soap is making
bacteria.
Right, bacteria that is resistant to antibacterials. Superbacteria.
A side note that saying you shouldn't use antibacterial hand soap is not the same as saying you should not use antibacterial hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer that is alcohol-based kills bacteria through dehydration. There is no way of it adapting to being dehydrated with alcohol.
Salt is also acceptable. Salt and certain essential oils to kill bacteria.
But antibacterial soap is not a thing that you should be using in general.
And definitely not on your vulva. So specifically, the vulva and the vagina have their own bacteria that needs to be there in order to maintain a healthy microbiome. And so you should never be using antibacterial soap down there. You should also make sure that the water is not too hot. There is an issue with vulvas and with the labia minora and labia majora where very hot water is drying. And that drying can cause issues with the microbiome and can cause issues such as itching and micro tears. The whole area is very, very delicate, and super, super hot water can damage that delicate balance. You should also remember to wash off all the soap. All the soap needs to come off. You want to spend more time rinsing than soaping.
Also, as a side note, in a super ideal world, you would do your washing with water that is not hard.
In Vegas, this is just impossible, and water softeners are very expensive.
And not 100% effective.
But the hard water balance actually does change your microbiome. So, okay. You want to separate the labia majora and the labia minora gently with your fingers. Do not tug them apart, because this causes A, pain, and B, micro tears. You want to wash between the labia minora and the labia majora very gently with a gentle finger, and just clean water, and plenty of it. Plenty of clean water that is not too hot and not too cold. Then you want to wash under the clitoral hood. Now you basically do this by rolling the pad of your finger, no nails, all around inside the clitoris, between the hood and the clitoris. This may feel very good to you.
It may feel very weird to you.
It may feel very weird to you. Some people take this as an opportunity to do clitoral masturbation. Some people use this as an opportunity just to get clean, and they try and get it over with as soon as possible. And there's a whole spectrum of people in between. You do you, as long as you clean it. Yeah. I have found that there are quite a few people who have gotten to adulthood with never being told that they needed to clean under their clitoral hood. But this prevents infections. You then need to gently
It also prevents
splash. You need to very, very gently just splash nice, plentiful, clean water against your urethra and make sure that that is clean as well. Another area that you should be hitting with unscented, soapy, not non-bacterial, not antibacterial soap is your the crack of your buttocks and around your anus. We're going to get into more of that
Also
in the
perineum.
anal cleansing section, but specifically you want to hit the area between the external genitalia consisting of, labia minora, labia majora, and the anus, the perineum. You need to make sure that you don't pass the cloth that you may be using that went over the anus over the vulva. You basically do the vulva first, then the perineum, then the anus. This is also how you should be wiping after you use the restroom. You want to go front to back on yourself and on any animals you have that have
or children.
And on any children.
Or infants.
Basically,
or
if you go the other way around from anus to perineum to vulva, then you wind up with bacterial transfer from the anus. Also, when it comes to sex,
Right.
which we'll get more in depth in later, you don't go from the anus to the vagina
Or
without
from the
washing
anus to
in
the
between,
mouth, which
or
I feel
from the
should
anus
be
to the mouth without washing in between. Blip, 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 blip. You do need to wash your perineum, but you need to do so very gently. The tissue of the perineum is very easy to tear, and when we get into what they never told you about giving birth, this is going to get kind of graphic about the perineum and how easy it is to tear it.
It's also an area where there's a very, very thin muscle bellies. For anyone who's ever had to lower your pants and cough at a doctor's appointment, they're testing for hernias, where the muscle belly has just torn.
When we get into information about masturbation, we start talking about perineums. One of the things that we need to talk about is the fact that yes, it feels good to press on that, but you need to be pressing very gently. I understand that there's some great nerves in there and it feels amazing sometimes to press very hard, but people are giving themselves hernias. Okay, you want to rinse more than you soap. I cannot stress that enough.
Right,
And
there's this. Can I interrupt you for a second? There's this weird idea, probably from when we all went through how to properly wash your hands in elementary school, that you have to spend 30 seconds to a minute lathering your hands with soap, and then you stick them under the water and pull them out and dry them. It's not great for your hands, but at least,
right, soap drying on your skin cracks it.
Yeah, it's not great for your hands. It's really bad for your genitalia because the skin on your hand is a little bit thicker and can take it a little bit better. You should be spending more time being thorough in rinsing the soap off than in getting the soap on.
Okay, so I want to talk about using a squirt bottle to clean the external genitalia, because it's very popular on a lot of blogs dedicated to personal hygiene.
There are worse hygiene practices.
It's not a bad thing as long as the bottle is being sterilized.
Yeah.
If the bottle is not being sterilized, you are introducing liquids that you should not. And then there is absolutely no reason for a pericare bottle to be squirting water up into the vagina. Do not douche, not with water, not with saline, and certainly not with fragrance douches. Do not put liquid, do not spray liquid up inside yourself. The vagina is self-cleaning. It does not need for you to do anything to clean it. It produces its own cleansing stuff that will flush everything out. But yeah, if you're going to use a pericare bottle to clean your vulva, sterilize it in between uses or buy single-use sterile ones, but you really don't need those unless you're caring for yourself post-birth or post-surgery.
Empty it between uses.
Empty it between uses because it will grow bacteria. Sterilize it between uses. And honestly, I don't think that they are necessary. But I cannot stress enough that the vagina cleanses itself naturally. You do not need to be cleaning up inside it. You can clean the opening of it with just water. Okay. Um, Vagina and vulvar hygiene tips other than washing. You should wash all new underwear before you wear it. You should wash it between each time that you wear it. You should wear clean underwear every single day. The underwear that you wear most of the time should have a cotton crotch. If you cannot do cotton, do silk. Polyester is not good for your vagina. It traps sweat, it traps bacteria, it traps odor, it causes you to sweat more than you would naturally. However, I'm aware that there is a concern with cost. Um,
This is more relevant for underwear designed for women than underwear designed for men. I can literally go buy a 5-pack of underwear for $15.
Your underwear should not be very tight. There is a tendency to want to wear the smallest size possible because of sizeism and because of fear of being fat in our culture.
If
Seriously,
it leaves indentations on you,
it is
it's
too
too
tight. Not only does this restrict adequate blood flow, which can interfere with everything from sexual pleasure to health, tight underwear again traps sweat, traps bacteria, and doesn't allow the vagina to breathe, and the vagina needs to breathe. Thong style underwear is incredibly bad for people who have vaginas. It transfers bacteria from the
Super quickly.
anus up into the vulva mound and up into the vagina, and causes infections. It causes an increase in UTIs and an increase in bacterial infections of the vagina, and it is concerning. Bubble baths and bath bombs are also very dangerous for people who have vaginas. There is a danger in using bubble bath and bath bombs that it will change the vagina's pH, or that it will get up inside the vagina and stay. Now, I'm aware that bath bombs and bubble baths are very,
Hugely
very
popular.
popular right now, especially in the witchcraft community. If you use them, we recommend that you wash the vagina very thoroughly with clean water. Well, wash the vulva.
Rinse thoroughly, sort of as the bath is draining and before you get out of it.
A concern with bubble baths and bubble baths and bath bombs, I can talk, is that they remove the natural fluid that keeps the vagina clean. So the more often you do them, the more dangerous it is. So keep it relatively rare. Most scented vaginal wipes are bad for you. Most scented wipes that are used on the vulva are bad for you. They cause microabrasions, micro tears. The fragranced ones in particular leave behind a residue that is bad for the vulva, bad for the vagina, and they strip up the natural oils that protect the area, and they strip up the natural bacteria that protect the area. I do not recommend them. However, if you are post-tear or post-surgery or post-birth, there are medicated non-scented wipes that we recommend that we'll get into in that time. We do not recommend that you wear tight-fitting clothing all the time. There is a concern with the exercise pants.
Talk about that's related to this.
Okay.
Go ahead and talk about exercise pants first.
Tight-fitting clothing made of polyester, nylon, spandex that doesn't breathe causes, again, that trapping of bacteria, of odor, of sweat, and there's a concern with doing it all the time. It's very popular right now to wear
Yoga
essentially
pants all day that are made of polyester.
It's also very popular right now to wear shapewear, and shapewear is incredibly bad for vaginal health. It's actually
Also
bad for health in general.
But yeah.
It's bad for your veins, it's bad for your muscle tone, and honestly, we're just playing into a culture that hates people for eating. Anyway, moving right along, what did you want to say?
Oh, I was going to talk about fancy sports underwear.
Mm-hmm.
That is billed as wicking and, release of sweat and what have you, most of it is still a fancy form of polyester. Um, and it may not obviously be trapping anything. I would still caution against wearing it all day. Like, wear it for your workout if you want to, and then shower after your workout and put on clean underwear. Um, that was sort of my thought on that.
So the class on STDs and STIs regarding the vagina and how to recognize them is a different class. But I'm going to continue with this. Let's talk about shaving and shaving in that area. One, I don't recommend it. Shaving the vulva is dangerous. There have been multiple studies released that people are causing infections and that it's not good for
Right.
it. However, I am aware that there is a huge amount of pressure right now on people who have vaginas to keep them waxed or shaved. I cannot stress enough that growing hair is a sign that you have reached sexual maturity and that it is safe for you to be engaging in sexual acts.
The fact that we fetishize the lack of hair is actually kind of gross and disturbing.
It's infantilizing.
Yeah.
We tell people who have vaginas that they're not sexually appealing unless they
look like they are not ready for sex yet.
And it was a way of selling razors.
That too.
However, I will say that Columbia University recently released something that said that shaving has been known to heighten vaginal sensation for some people who have vaginas, and for people who have a lack of feeling, okay.
Consider doing like gentle exfoliation instead, because part of this is like, okay, anyone who shaves their face is aware that you, or their legs or anything else, that you are removing a layer of skin when you do. Try that.
But something to understand
if what you're going for is increased sensation.
is why we have pubic hair in the first place. So vaginas are a mucous membrane. The skin is more delicate than your regular hair. It's actually the same skin that we have on our eyelids. Pubic hair works to protect the vagina. One, it acts as a cushion, making sure that folds don't stick together, that stuff does not abrade the area by rubbing against you. It also actually protects from over-aggressive thrusting from a person who possesses a penis or who is wearing a strap-on. The hair also traps bad bacteria and stops it from getting against the vagina.
Kind of the same way that nose hair works.
Now, if you rip the hair out with wax, there are teeny tiny tears left behind in the hair follicles wherever you ripped out the hair with wax. Waxing also removes not just dead skin cells, like you mentioned, but actually the top layer of the skin that you're supposed to have. So it damages the protective skin barrier, it rips the follicles open, and leaves the entire area vulnerable to infection, which it's already prone to. Shaving causes tiny nicks and cuts more than you are aware that you have.
Until you break out the lemon juice anyway. Don't
this causes
break out lemon
things.
Juice down there.
This opens you up to infections such as bacterial cellulitis and staph, and you wind up with razor bumps, which, yeah. One of the things that I've seen before is people insisting that shaving and waxing down there helps protect you from STDs and STIs.
This is false.
This is false. It's actually the other way around. We definitely do not recommend depilatory creams, which can give the vulva chemical burns, but also which, again, change the biome. There's an issue with the risk of ingrown hairs in an area that it's very hard for you to see and which can get infected. And it's rare for there to be scarring from waxing and chemical burns, but it does happen. However, all that being said, if you're going to, because it is your body and you get to pick, not us. Always use a clean, sharp razor. Dull razors are more of a risk than sharp razors.
Yes.
Always do so in a warm, damp environment after a hot bath, after a hot shower. Because if the pores are open, it is easier for the hairs to come away. Never ever share your razors. Never ever.
Excuse me for a moment.
Only shave the areas where there is hair. Go slowly. Don't rush. Cut avoidance is absolutely key. If you are going to get waxing done, it should be done in a place that is clean and professional. The person who is working on you should wash their hands and wear gloves. Think of this as a physician's procedure. The person who is working on you should never double dip into the wax pot, should never use the same strip twice, and should always use a different spatula between each person that you go to. Okay? Let's see. You should always use hard wax, not speed wax. And keep a special, careful eye for redness, swelling, itching, burning. So if you're going to, do it safely. Right.
Does that cover?
I'm checking my notes and seeing if I covered everything. Okay. I know we're running out of time.
Yes.
Get to know your vaginal scent. Everyone's everyday scent is different. You are not naturally supposed to smell like flowers. You are not naturally supposed to smell like sugar and spice and everything nice. Everyone should smell slightly different. However, the variations are an alert. Closer to a menstrual cycle, you should smell more metallic. If you are having an overabundance of yeast, you will smell more bready. If you are having any kind of very strong odor or very strong discoloration, tending more towards yellows and greens in your vaginal discharge, that's a sign to seek mental health. Bleh.
A physician.
A physician, not a mental health person.
Long day.
Discharge should vary between clear and white with a hint of yellow. That discharge could be anything from very little to large amounts. That's normal. Preceding sex wherein semen contacts there. Not preceding.
I was gonna say you seem to be having.
I'm sorry, my brain just completely turned off. After having sex with a person wherein semen contacts the vaginal fluids, the scent may change. Sometimes that's an unpleasant smell. Give it a couple of hours, give it a day, take a shower, wash with clean water. If it persists, that's a sign that you should consider that there might be an infection, but there is just a reaction between the chemicals of semen and the chemicals in the vagina, and sometimes that creates an unusual smell. Pay attention when you have sex with that particular partner and see what's consistent and what's concerning. Closer to the menstrual cycle, it's not uncommon for discharge to be brown. That's okay. That's normal.
Since we're talking about hygiene associated with cosmetic procedures, I want to go intersectional for a second and talk about vaginal bleaching. Because this is a thing that gets done.
I was covering that as part of genital mutilation, but we can touch on it here.
It is something that people do voluntarily, particularly people in communities of color, because there's
anal bleaching as well.
There's the porn perfect pussy, to be crude.
One of our classes is going to be on the harmful effects of porn.
And people get this idea that they should look like that, even though there's actually an enormous amount of variation. And one of the ways that they do that is there are commercially available products that you can buy and apply yourself that are bleaching. I highly recommend against using these. There is no safe way to use these. Bleach is bleach because it is a highly basic compound. You are changing the pH balance. You are destroying large chunks of the microbiome. It will have negative health effects. Essentially, it is a health risk. Having said that, if it is one that you decide that you want to take, I obviously cannot stop you. However,
Eating yogurt is very healthy. Also, if you are very prone to UTIs, one of the actual naturopathic things that has been verified by extensive testing is that taking a daily cranberry supplement can help with UTIs.
Yeah. Note, you don't actually want to buy like a
Not
thing
from
of cranberry
Walmart.
juice from Walmart because it's actually going to be cranberry juice cocktail and have a bunch of sugar and be counterproductive.
Drinking lots of sugary beverages is absolutely counterproductive for UTIs, and you will get more of them. Okay, so when we get into sexual practices, we'll talk some more about cleaning after sex. But in particular, seriously, if you have a vagina and anything up inside you, toys, fingers, penises, tongues, whatever, I don't know, Barbie heads, whatever. This was a thing, okay?
I know that one guy.
You have to pee.
Yeah.
Okay? Like it is incredibly important. If anything went up inside you, you need to pee. It is also recommended that after you remove a tampon or a Diva cup or menstrual cup, I guess, because Diva cups is a brand,
Yeah.
right?
It's a Xerox.
You try and pee as well. Basically, anything that's moving around in that area and introducing bacteria to the urethra, you want to flush it out.
Foods that can be used to make dye, when you consume them, may dye what comes out of your body.
Yep.
And medications as well.
Yep,
Certain
medications can
will also
change it
have
as
this
well.
effect.
Actually, one of our classes does need to be on birth control and how to safely use it. But moving right along, I want to cover menstrual cycles and cleanliness during
So it
menstrual
looks like we're
cycles
only going to
as
get
soon
to
as
vaginal cleanliness today.
yeah. Unless should I skip and we'll talk about in general penis cleanliness and have menstrual cycles be a separate class, or should I have that be part
Do you
of
think you
taking
can
care
cover
of?
penis cleanliness in 50? Honestly, probably.
Okay, so we'll do cleanliness for penises for
We're gonna zip right through this.
and come back and do menstrual cleanliness on different things. So first, we're going to talk about the fact that penile hygiene for people who have a foreskin is different from penile hygiene for people who do not have a foreskin. Okay? Foreskins trap a different kind of bacteria than is present on an uncircumcised penis, and uncircumcised penises will have a different kind of bacteria than non-circumcised penises. It has to do with anaerobic and aerobic environments, so it varies. However, basically what this means is that if you have a foreskin, you need to very gently pull it back.
Roll it up and wash the head of your penis underneath the foreskin as well as the underside of the foreskin. If you don't have a foreskin,
if you are
you can wash
taking
the head of the
care
penis without doing that.
if you are taking care of an infant that has a non-retractile foreskin, you don't need to pull it back to clean under it. You don't. And in fact, if you do, you will injure the child that has a foreskin. If, however, the foreskin is retracting already, then yeah, you need to gently pull it back and clean underneath it. And as they get older, you need to teach them to do this as well. This
is actually relevant information for infants. The foreskin does not necessarily have the ability to be rolled back from the head of the penis from birth.
No, and in fact, it's actually very rare. It often is still on there because the penis is still growing and still changing. Now, when we get into genital mutilation, we'll cover no, really, it's concerning to take it off. But we'll save that for that. As infants grow and become older, the foreskin may become retractable. As it becomes so, you need to teach your children who have penises to gently pull the foreskin back, rinse the area, and then allow it to return to its normal forward protection. This may occur naturally. In some people with foreskins, it just rolls right back up on its own. In other people, you need to gently pull it back into place. Do not leave it retracted. This can cause injury. If the foreskin has not become retractable before puberty, it often happens during puberty, and that's a sign that someone is going through it. This is when it becomes so important, and one of the reasons why we do oppose this form of genital mutilation is that after puberty, having that foreskin intact helps provide a moist environment, which is very healthy for the penis and also provides better sexual pleasure. But we'll get into that. You want to avoid washing underneath the foreskin with soap. Just like we told people with vaginas to avoid washing in the clitoral hood with soap. The soap will often stay and become drying and irritating and cause microabrasions and micro tears and potentially infections. All you need is clean water and plenty of it. Again, we don't recommend very hot water. You don't want to dry out the environment. It's a mucous membrane. Just like you don't want to put very hot water on your eyelids. Let's see. Depletion of the natural oils causes non-specific dermatitis, which is really unpleasant, and you want to avoid it. The only time that you need to use any kind of soap is if there's a yeast overgrowth, and in which case we recommend going to a physician and being prescribed specifically anti-yeast overgrowth soap, which is very gentle and unscented. In 1 to 2% of people with penises, the foreskin does not become retractable. This causes health difficulties, and specifically, there can be a smegma buildup and a risk of penile cancer. We recommend that someone who has a non-retractable foreskin seek the aid of a physician. It's very rare. We don't recommend that that person be pressured into circumcision. There are surgeries to correct a non-retractable foreskin that are not circumcision. Okay, moving right along. Things that you might be doing wrong. You need to clean your penis every day, even if you are not taking a shower. The groin is a breeding ground for bacteria, and the penis is in close proximity to that breeding ground of bacteria, and so needs to be washed every day. Specifically after workouts and after sex, every single time. Wash the penis after workouts and after sex. We recommend, if you have a foreskin, you soap on the outside of the foreskin, not underneath it. If you do not have a foreskin, you can soap the whole area. Do not work soap into the urethra. It is not necessary. The urethra is self-cleaning. You can cause microabrasions, micro tears, and infections. Don't overdo soaping. We recommend that you lather your hands and then use that lather to work the area. Do not apply the soap from a bar directly to the penis. Then you're going to spread bacteria with that bar. And also, if you use your hands, it is easier not to irritate the delicate skin. Let's see. Do not wash the penis with 2-in-1 body washes. They have...
This is a thing that I feel like we shouldn't have to say.
there's a tendency in people who have penises to have been encouraged to buy bottles that are black and silver and labeled for men, and that they do everything. They wash your hair,
Right,
they
it's your
wash
shaving
your...
lather, it washes your hair, it washes your body, it cleans everything, it makes you smell like, you know,
Most
a
of
sex god, whatever.
those have all kinds of detergents and chemicals that you do not want on the delicate skin of the penis or the perineum. Seriously.
Or the scrotum, Jesus.
Now, what if you don't shower every day? Actually, most people shouldn't be. You should not be showering every day. It's actually bad for your overall skin and hair. But the penis should be washed every day. So get used to what
Use a
gets called a
washcloth?
cowboy bath.
Yeah.
We already said wash your penis after sex.
So
Don't forget to wash after you masturbate. Do not leave your fluids on yourself. That can, again, attract bacteria and cause infections. Let's see.
Yeah, Nathan, I use Dr. Bronner's a lot of the time. I'm not currently for reasons relating to peppermint that were mentioned previously. But yeah, Castile soap is fine if you can handle the whatever essential oil was used to scent it.
Yeah, don't put essential oil laden Castile soap up inside a vagina, underneath the foreskin, or inside the urethra. So let's talk about smegma. What is smegma?
Can I?
Yeah.
Can I also talk about, because we talked about the penis, you also need to wash your scrotum. It exists. You have to wash it, and you have to make sure that you get in all the folds, because the average scrotum looks kind of wrinkly and folded because they're designed to have the ability to regulate temperature by falling away from the body cavity or retracting up towards it. Gently spread out the skin and apply the lather in your hands within each of the folds and then rinse off. It's not difficult, but people forget because it's awkward or because it feels weird. Don't. Also, just like with people with a vulva and a vagina, you want to work front to back. Do the penis, do the scrotum, then do the perineum, and then discard that washcloth. Then do the anus and then discard that washcloth. But that is very sparkly.
You are very sparkly, Alexander.
I just wanted to make sure that we covered that. Oh.
No, that's really, thank you.
While you're finding your notes on smegma, let's also talk about, because there are people with penises who like to shave, who like to wax, who like to do all of those things.
All the same
Most
concerns.
of the same concerns apply. There are fewer concerns with accidentally getting wax inside of yourself, I guess.
So one of the concerns with shaving and waxing the area is that the skin of the testicles is very, very easily torn. Because the vulva, at least, basically kind of stays.
Right.
The testicles will go with you. And trying to flatten out and smooth out the testicle shapes to safely shave is a danger. Now, while you're in there, pay attention to the size and response of the testicles. Anyway,
Yeah.
But we'll get into that with cancer screening. So, smegma is a substance made up of oil and dead skin cells. It accumulates under the foreskin in uncircumcised penises and around the folds of the labia in people with vulvas and vaginas. It is not a sign of a sexually transmitted infection or disease. That is a myth. However, a buildup of foul-smelling discharge can be. Left alone, smegma can cause an odor, and in some cases, harden and lead to irritation and micro tears. If you have a penis, cleaning under and around your foreskin basically can help prevent smegma buildup. You basically gently peel back the foreskin. If the smegma has hardened, don't pull the foreskin back all the way and risk forcing it and tearing. Pull it back just a little ways at a time. working in warm water, no soap, and do not harshly scrub. If the smegma has hardened, gently rubbing an unscented, genital safe oil can sometimes work it free. Castile soap is fantastic for this. It's an oil-based soap. Do not use essential oil laden. Use the unscented to do this. If the smegma does not improve after doing this, go to a physician. Do not attempt to scrape it out with cotton swabs. This is incredibly dangerous, can lead to serious damage. If the penis has a buildup of smegma and is also red or inflamed, or the smegma is specifically building up around the urethra, seek a physician. You may have an infection. Okay. I think that's everything.
We're gonna get to
We're gonna have
anal
to
hygiene
pick up
next time.
perianal and anal hygiene and menstrual hygiene next time. Sorry, we only have an hour for these classes, and we have a lot to teach. Send us any questions you have about this topic either below in the comments or at our email address. Thank you everyone for attending. We hope it was informative. Have a wonderful evening and be safe.